I'm going to ask you one from Simon Collister. I'm not really sure the background on this.
All right.
I'll ask it and see what happens.
Very
So
good.
why doesn't Here Comes Everybody tackle the battle over copyright and DRM? And he asks, is it, as Felix Strader claimed, a case of self-censorship? Perhaps it's too controversial.
Oh yes, I love that Felix thing.
you know about this stuff?
Yes.
Okay. All right, do you want to tackle it?
Sure. So Felix writes this thing in which he says, essentially, the author did not agree with me, and the only possible explanation for that is that he secretly agrees with me, but he's tamping it down.
Right.
In fact, there's a much more parsimonious explanation, which is that I think Felix is wrong.
Yeah.
Felix's view seems to me, from reading that piece, that copyright and DRM is the core battle of the age, and that
and we just worked around it.
It is well. So this is my view, which is essentially one of the misunderstandings. Actually, so I think there's actually two different pieces. Felix has I think misunderstood something about the book, and then he and I disagree. The misunderstanding is that this is a book about the current change, loosely going under the phrase Web 2.0, right? Which is a phrase I never use in the book. I actually don't find it that helpful. But it's not. It's a book about change in the social environment, and so where we disagree is Felix believes that the change in the social environment is almost completely bound up in conversations about copyright and DRM, and I don't. I think, in fact, that the huge shift here, which I talk about fairly extensively in the chapter on open source, is around the novel copyright bargain offered up by the GPL, by the license used for open source software, and by kind of related licenses like the Creative Commons license. So in fact, I think copyright and DRM, while it's a major problem in some economic models of the media industry as a sort of broadcast-centric industry, actually doesn't affect sociality that much. And the routing around function that you alluded to with copyright law is to use these permissive licenses that essentially guarantee reuse by good actors. Mm-hmm. So in fact, I've written plenty on copyright on DRM. There's no self-censorship. No one's ever accused me of self-censorship before. I tend to go on at length about anything I'm interested in. But I didn't put copyright on DRM here because I don't think it matters that much. And not just that, but I don't think it is part of the story, but it's a very minor part of the story. It's not actually it's not the part that matters very much. The question of whether or not we're going to stick it to the man vis-a-vis the big media companies is actually much less interesting than the question of under what circumstances is massive collaboration a good idea. And that's really not bound up with the DRM fight at all.